Today I'm going to look at a Tascam Portastudio 464. This is a 4-track cassette portable studio that would have been used by amateur musicians and even some smaller studios and radio stations for doing post-production and production of commercials and so forth. Got one in here, the tape transport doesn't function, so it's probably something simple like a belt. Let's take a look. This is a Portastudio 464 by Tascam. This is a 4-channel consumer, well, I wouldn't really call it consumer, but it was a semi-professional mix board is what it was. Something like this would have been used by musicians, maybe something for home studio use, and small scale, usually by private musicians that couldn't afford the digital equipment of the day. And it was used by a lot of amateurs to make demos and stuff. It allows you to record 4 separate tracks. So the cassette only operates in one direction. It'll operate at normal or high speed. So normal is 1 7/8 IPS and 3 3/4 for high speed. So it's going to get a lot better sound than a regular cassette recorder. It also uses the DBX noise reduction system to give it very good signal to noise ratio and eliminate all of the hiss that would normally be associated with a crappy format like cassette. Usually record on a high bias tape like this, and the tape itself would run, it's a 4 tracks, one direction. If we look down at the head, if we can see it through here, you'll see that it's a 4-track head. So what that means is it has the ability to record 4 independent tracks. You arm your track, record track 1, record track 2, record track 3, record track 4, or multiple tracks. It also has the ability, obviously, while you're recording, to play back. So for example, if you lay down your bass or your drums on one track, you can play it back and listen to that track while you're laying down the second and third and fourth track. So it's a basic 4-track multi-channel recorder. And this one's broken. If we pop a tape in, you'll see that the tape will rewind, the tape will fast forward, but it won't do anything on play or record. And that's because the capstan is not turning. So let's open this thing up and find out why the capstan is not turning. It's likely a belt. I don't know. This might even be direct drive. Never opened one of these up until today. Let's get started. So once we remove all the screws from the bottom and the 2 from the top here, the unit will just open up like that. And there's probably something that's holding this in place that I'm going to have to remove. So we just undo some connectors. We'll undo a few cords. Now we can lift the top off and get a look at the transport itself. A couple more screws to remove the tape transport. And we'll see that the belt is broken. Here's our flywheel and the motor up here. This one should be, I think, should be relatively easy to replace the belt on this one. Just looking at the layout of it, I should be able to just take out 2 screws and remove this bracket and then fit a new belt. Let's measure the old belt first and find out the size of it. As you can see, the 2 pieces of the belt go to about the 5-inch mark from the 1-inch mark. So that gives me about a 4-inch belt that I need to find. So let's go dig one up. Here's one that's probably about the right size. So let's try first belt I grabbed out of my bin. And this last one here, I think that'll remove this bracket. Maybe not. Oh, I gotta remove it. Well, it should be enough to actually get that belt in. I don't actually need to remove it completely. I just need to be able to slip the belt over top of the bearing here. And it's turning freely, so I don't really need to worry too much about lubricating this thing. Somebody will probably take exception to that, but too bad. This one and the other one on the other side holds this bracket in place. Okay, now we just have to fish the belt over the motor. Grab a dental pick for that. And if you wonder how to get the belt centered on a pulley like this, if it's not behaving, you can always put a piece of tape on it to hold it to the actual flywheel. I probably don't need to on this one. I can just position it like this and then grab it at the other side and pull it over top of the pulley. But if it was being stubborn, I would just stick a piece of black tape on. Just to, in fact, I might do that just to hold it in place, just so that I don't have to worry about it dropping out of position while I'm fishing it in on the other side. So I'll just grab a piece of electrical tape and I'll place it onto the pulley here just to hold the belt in position so that I can grab it on the other side and pull it around the motor. Just like that. I can take the tape off and turn the pulley, and the belt will now center. Now I can mount the deck and plug everything in, and we can give this thing a test. You'll notice that these screws self-center themselves. But the deck itself actually floats so that when it's attached to the cabinet, you can line up the holes. So the screws that hold down the actual deck, they have a collar on them, which is slightly smaller than the hole that they fit through, so that there's a little bit of a gap there, and that's so that the deck itself, when the top goes on, it can be centered to line up with the screws on the top. Time to put the top on and plug all the plugs back in here, except for that one. That one goes in either way. There's a short one that goes on the front here. Kind of like these Pro units. They're designed for relatively ease of maintenance. Everything just unplugs. Even the regulators down here are just plugged in. Notice this, the voltage regulators are attached to a heat sink, but they're just actually just plugged in to a socket because they know that they're going to fail at some point, right? Going to have to be changed. Just made them easy to work on, because something like this would have been used in a small recording studio situation. Radio stations and stuff would have used a unit like this to, well, make commercials on. In fact, some radio stations that I've visited in the past didn't even go this advanced. They just had home cassette decks. But something like this would have been perfect in a small studio, like a radio station, for doing commercials, laying down music beds, doing voiceovers and stuff, because you've got multiple tracks to work with. So they were designed for ease of service, and multiple decks could actually even be synced and linked together. I'm so confident this is going to work, I'm going to put the screws in it before I test it. How's that for confidence? So the unit is back together. I have a tape that was in the unit when it arrived, so it's a good chance that there's somebody performing on this tape. Let's listen to it together. Now you notice I can control this. It's got the 4 channels over here on playback become the mixed output, and I can play it back and mix it and listen to it, and if I was recording an extra track, I could arm another track and record another track while playing the other 3. I think there's only 3 tracks recorded on this tape right now, but let's just take a listen. I can play around with the pan, I can move the guitar. I got a guitar, sounds like guitar, maybe an accordion on track 3 and vocals on track 2, and I can play around with the different mixes on this, which turns really this into a full portable studio, as the name Portastudio.
I miss you.
as you can see, got the 3 levels here for the 3 tracks. So right now there's just the guitar and whatever that other instrument is playing on the right channel. Conventional tape recorded on a regular deck. Obviously just tracks 1 and 2 are going to be there because 3 and 4 will be the opposite direction. If I take down tracks 1 and 2, forward, track 1 and 2. Yeah, definitely just made to use as a studio deck. Although you could use it to record conventional 2-track stuff as well. Just recording on tracks 1 and 2 would make it compatible with a conventional cassette deck. So one of these could be used as a conventional deck, but designed to be used in a home studio. Here's the original tape. I'm going to put the DBX back on here because this was recorded in DBX. The tape I just played was not, and if I tried to play it in DBX it would sound horrible. Here's another playback from this. Whoever recorded this didn't really know how to record, did they? Look at the levels. Like there's hardly anything there. If I crank up the get the output, the mixed. See if I change the pan control, I can. So I can get the levels back by cranking it up on playback, but it's recorded at a very low level. Anyway, that's how to change the belt on one of these Portastudio 464s by Tascam. Thanks for watching.